high risk start sits for week 10, and I'm going to switch things up a little bit this week. As I started to make my list of players, I noticed a trend. There were a lot of very similarly ranked players on the same team, so I thought that it would be fun this week to do a who would you rather style start sit video with teammates. So we are pitting teammates against each other this week. We're looking at the Colts, Chargers, Giants, and Broncos. Who is the better flex option in week 10? We have been on an absolute roller coaster with Chargers receivers. We started off the season with Quentin Johnston on an absolute heater, Keenan Allen thriving, and Ladd McConkey simply existing. Then Ladd got back on track, Quentin Johnston got hurt, and then he got shaky to the tune of 0 targets. Keenan Allen was kind of hanging around. He did have a boom game, and it was Oronde Gadsden that emerged with the massive upside. Now Quentin Johnston is maybe back on track. Ladd McConkey is still trustworthy, but perhaps Oronde Gadsden is the most reliable player, and Keenan Allen has taken a massive hit. So when we look at the two flex options between Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnston, who can we trust? Fantasy production, ebbs and flows, and a couple of single-digit fantasy outings wouldn't be that concerning, considering that just as recent as week 7, we saw Keenan Allen with 11 receptions on 14 targets for 119 yards and a touchdown. However, the problem here is that we haven't just seen a downturn in fantasy production, we have also seen a major decrease in snaps. Between Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, and Keenan Allen. Keenan Allen has always been the one with the lowest amount of snaps, but they were at least fairly consistent. Over the past 2 weeks, he has played less than 40% of snaps, and it's possible that we are seeing a shift in the Chargers offense because that decrease in snaps does somewhat correlate with the increase in snaps for Oronde Gadsden. Gadsden has been incredibly successful, hitting double-digit fantasy points in the past 4 games, and has a clear rapport with Justin Herbert, and along with what also appears to be a permanent presence in the Chargers offense. If the Chargers are reducing Keenan Allen's role to increase opportunities for Oronde Gadsden, Allen is not a trustworthy option anymore. There is also a little factor of the increased presence for rookie Trey Harris. That is also a sneaky little issue here. Harris definitely isn't in play right now for a flex option, but he has played more snaps than Keenan Allen in each of the past 2 games. That cannot be a coincidence there. It seems the Chargers are both kind of shifting towards youth, and Keenan Allen might just be left out in the cold. But can we trust a player in Quentin Johnston who literally might give us nothing? Like, absolutely nothing. Quentin Johnston has seen a modest reduction in snaps also over the past 2 games, but he is coming off a 4 reception, 5 target, 53 yards, and a touchdown performance. He still has a strong presence on the field. Given the extremely advantageous matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers, quite frankly, literally both of these players could have fine games, but my lean here is towards Quentin Johnston. Pittsburgh is a very pass-friendly defense, and Justin Herbert will be throwing for volume, and this also tends to be very advantageous to the wide receiver that plays deep. Deep threats have had excellent games against the Steelers. Now, this is going to be a fun debate because both of these guys are coming off excellent games, and across the entire NFL at every position, the Colts offense might be the safest group to start in general. The Colts lead the league in average offensive points per game. They are second only to Buffalo in average yards per game, and despite having the league's top running back, they're very well balanced between passing and rushing. Even in Daniel Jones' worst performance of the year, all the Colts receivers had excellent days. Now, the pecking order in the Colts offense in terms of the receiving core and snaps is Pittman and Pierce leading the way, followed by Downs. However, in terms of fantasy production, it is Pittman that is dominating as a top 10 receiver in half PPR, and then Pierce and Downs are averaging single-digit fantasy points, but they have been much steadier over the past month. Downs has had a more reliable floor, with Pierce having the higher ceiling. Downs has hit double-digit fantasy points in all but 3 games this season and has between 11 and 16 fantasy points with 3 touchdowns in each of his last 4 active games. Now, Pierce is a deep threat. He plays a different role, which means that when he hits, he has boom games. He has the highest ADOT of the entire Colts offense, and he has shown the ability to garner double-digit targets in high-volume matchups twice this season, including last week against Pittsburgh, where he had 6 receptions on 13 targets for 115 yards. But all of the receivers were solid against Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh allows aggressive volume, and this week they face Atlanta. High-end quarterbacks, and Tua Tagovailoa too, have had no problem with Atlanta's pass volume. We should have a solid week from Daniel Jones. I give the edge to Josh Downs over Pierce because he has the better floor, plus the fact that the ceilings between the two really aren't that dramatically different, but both of these guys are actually very start-worthy options this week. I won't bury the lead here. I don't trust either one of these guys, but considering how much of a dire situation we are in at running back at this point, they're both likely going to end up in the top 30 at the position in terms of rankings. Currently, Fantasy Pros ECR has Tracy as RB22 and Singletary as RB32. I'm not entirely sure I understand that logic. We talked about this in the waiver wire video. We expect Tracy to take over as the lead back here heading into this game because we had a baseline of what this backfield looks like when the backs are only Tracy and Singletary. Tracy was definitely the lead back in 2024 eventually, but as I discussed in previous videos, once you lose that job, we can't expect you to completely get it back here. And Tracy flat out lost his job to Cam Skattebo. In week 9, Singletary was the more effective back here between the two. Tracy had 5 carries for 18 yards and 3 receptions on 4 targets for 19 yards, while Singletary had 8 carries for 43 yards and 2 receptions on 2 targets for 8 yards. And what's worse, Singletary outsnapped Tyrone Tracy, and Singletary was the preferred back at the goal line. And in terms of receiving, we should note that the actual routes run really weren't that different. Tracy doesn't have a massive edge in terms of receiving volume. I still lean towards Jackson Dart being the goal line preference here. And again, neither one of these guys will be ranked in the top 24 for me. And I will be ranking Singletary over Tracy unless the Giants say otherwise. Despite the matchup, I will not advise either one of these guys as they start here. The problem here, though, is the matchup. It makes it difficult for us, right, in terms of our decision. Like, if this was against the LA Rams, there is no way that we would be playing either one of these guys. I don't care how thin we are at running back. But the Giants are facing the Bears. The Bears give up the 13th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. They are a good matchup, so perhaps that's why Tracy is so highly ranked here. Add in a subpar run defense and the fact that there is a high point total expected in this game, and the Bears are the favorites. So technically, if the Giants are chasing points, yeah, I can see where Tracy would have the advantage with a slight lean towards him as a receiver. But we should note that it is good running backs that succeed against the Bears, not the bad ones. They are far worse against the pass than the run. I don't trust either one of these guys. I have to give a slight lean towards Singletary if you make me choose. But again, these are not really safe flex options this week. Extremely high risk and probably low ceilings. Let's do one more comparison here with RJ Harvey and JK Dobbins. There is no mystery of who has been the higher fantasy player in recent games. We talked about this in the trade video and why I love RJ Harvey as a trade target. Earlier in the season, Sean Payton was definitely being Sean Payton and making RJ Harvey earn it. We saw a boom game from him against Cincinnati, but that was pretty much on par with every single running back and how they perform against Cincinnati. But outside of that, Harvey's touches were limited and they lacked production. But the lack of trust that we saw earlier in the season with Harvey, it appears to be disappearing here. He has posted back-to-back strong performances, one against a layup defense in Dallas and one against one of the best run defenses in Houston. And over the past 3 games, Harvey has scored 2 touchdowns on the ground and 3 through the air. The only issue here is that there is literally no difference in his touches from earlier in the season. There is not an increase in snaps or in touches. It is just that they are being very intentional and meaningful about his usage. J.K. Dobbins is still the lead back here in both snaps and carries. That is very clear. While Dobbins continues to operate as the lead back, he hasn't scored since week 5. He is uninvolved in the pass game. That's been the way it has been the entire season. I don't think that's going to change. And his performances in PPR over the past 4 games are RB49, RB24, RB17, and RB33, compared to Harvey over the last 4 games, RB35, RB30, RB6, RB11. The reality here is that Dobbins' floor really isn't that much better than Harvey for us to favor him when Harvey has shown so much upside. We are seeing Harvey's role increase, particularly in the red zone, and paired with the injury risk to Dobbins on a week-to-week basis and rest of season, we do tend to look towards Harvey more with more upside. Now, Dobbins is still getting red zone touches. He has not completely disappeared. So while this could be similar to Kareem Hunt being Kansas City's preferred red zone option over Isaiah Pacheco and Zach Charbonnet when he started seeing more valuable touches compared to Kenneth Walker, it's not a clear takeover here. But when one is being more productive than the other, we do have to start looking at the backfield differently. Harvey's upside is worth the potential downside of him not getting a touchdown. I do think that Dobbins is the safer play here. But if you want the big upside swing, go with Harvey. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. You can follow me across all social media platforms at It's Sarah Time, so make sure that you are tuned in, subscribe, turn on notifications, because I am bringing you more fantasy football content all season long. Every week I've got you covered with top waiver wire ads, live shows, live Q&A where you can ask me any questions, and so much more.